Hey, I'm Kim.
And I'm Poncho, and you're listening to Now That You See It, a show that will ruin you for boring conversations forever.
It's about the invisible stuff that shapes how we think and connect those, oh, wait, what? Moments that change how you perceive the world around you.
Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Hey, friends.
How's it going?
Welcome to another episode.
You got a
Now
guest
that you see it,
episode.
another guest episode with our friend Paradie Stewart.
Hi.
Hey, Paradie. Welcome to the episode. We are so excited for this conversation and so excited to have you on the podcast. You are a big thinker, a big feeler, and you've got some ideas that you want to bring to us. So, Paradie, what is the thing that once you saw, you can't unsee it?
Yeah, thank you, Kim and Pancho, for having me. I'm very excited to be here. And I would love to talk about how I have learned through lots of trial and error that real change isn't made by big extreme measures or big pushes of willpower. It can be made by small, repeatable actions that make your nervous system feel safe to actually change.
Titration.
Titration, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so you are a coach.
Yes,
And this is something that you came to sort of recently.
very.
So tell us a little bit about, you've been thinking about coaching, you've been coaching for a while, but this is not inborn for you. This happened recently. Tell us what life was like before it, what coaching was like before it, what led you to see it, and then what has life been like after?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that coaching was really the pivotal shift for me in learning all this. But for most of my life, it has been go big or go home. It's all or nothing, extreme, black and white thinking. And I can just remember that from from even as a little kid, just thinking that I do it all or I do nothing.
Mm.
Mm.
And that got me places when I had the energy and the stamina to manage that. But once I started to hit college, it was like my system can't function this way anymore. And it showed up in all the areas: eating, exercise, work performance, relationships. It was either I'm going to do this change or I'm going to make this, big shift to be a better version of myself. And I'm going to go hard, extreme hard for like a certain period of time. And then always the crash and burn would happen. And over
Mm.
time, that the crash and the burn took longer and longer to recover from. So
Mm.
that even if I had some wins or some success for a certain period of time, that also shrunk.
Mm. um, h- Highly relatable content. As an intense human being, this, I can relate to this. It's parody though. Slow and steady is really boring. so, so tell us like what helped you make the shift? Because if you're an intense person, boring isn't fun. How did you decide like, I cannot do this anymore? Like, what was your breaking point?
Yeah. I mean, I think boring is part of it. I think it was also like when people use the word balance, like I had no concept of that. Like I couldn't even understand what people meant when they said balance because I had never experienced it. It was just such an intense shift from one thing to the other. And I think for me, like I said, with this career shift and getting into coaching, I realized that I'm actually doing something now I'm so passionate about and I love. And the way I've been living my life isn't sustainable to make this actually work out. That all the strategies, all the methods I have to like work through something and learn something and be successful is absolutely not going to work in a long-term way that will support a coaching business, especially
Mm.
a coaching business.
Mhm.
Mm.
Mhm.
Can you give an example of that? Rubber hits the ground, kind of an example. Like, how have you noticed this is
Yes.
going to be unsustainable?
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say, like, if I can just give some examples about how it's drained me thinking like black and white, all or nothing. A
Mhm.
huge part of it is just like health with diet and exercise. So, with exercise, it might be like, because that's a huge part of my psyche, I'm going to like, I got a gym membership. And when I made the career shift, I was like, I'm going to do all of these changes at the same time because that's how it works. You know, I'm going to shift everything in my whole being and my whole persona. So I'm going to make the career shift. I'm going to get the awesome hot bod. I'm going to eat perfectly, and it was great for like 3 weeks in the summer. And then I just there was no energy left for it, and I couldn't show up for coaching calls because I was absolutely drained. And it was like, shit, you know, the point and the reason I love coaching so much is to be able to support people in a really deep and meaningful way. And if I can't figure out my own shit and learn how to take care of myself, how am I going to help other people do that?
Yeah. Yeah. What does life look like now?
Oh, it is so weird, Kim. It is so slow. And I say so slow in a part of me is saying so slow. The part of me that is used to fast or sloth, because it is I have found my titration is so little, but that tiny little movements over and over and over again give me the traction I need to be able to say, I'm doing this and I can keep going.
Mm, that's cool.
Mhm. I'm thinking about you use the word boring, Kim. And what I'm thinking about is actually precisely the the example that you shared, Parody, which is like changing the way your body looks. And the fact that like you can't do it all at once. And that if you do it too quickly, it's actually unhealthy for you. And that the way to sustainably change the way your body looks is really incremental, almost at a pace at which it's like you don't notice it. You're like, this is why people have to take before and after pictures,
Mhm.
because it's such a gradual change that they look at themselves in the mirror every day, and on a day-to-day basis you can't notice a change. It's only when you look back at what it looked like 6 months ago and you compare it with today that you get enough contrast. And that's not necessarily boring. I would say it's almost like it's imperceivable. Like it happens at such a slow pace that we don't notice that change. And then I was thinking about how that might apply to the rest of our lives. So what's the way that you've seen, if I've got my head on straight,
Mhm.
if I'm thinking about what you're saying and, saying it back to you with that example, what are other ways in which you've noticed there's this really slow, gradual, almost imperceptible rate of change in your life?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect example. And I think what you said there, 6 months, I think that freaks people out because
Mm,
everybody wants the magic wand. They
yeah.
want the shot, they want the pill, they want the 2 week transform your life program. And we're just not used to understanding that sustainable and like lifelong change happens at that slower pace. So, um, I can totally give you an example. I had back pain for like 10 years from like 25 to 35. And it didn't really make sense because I was like relatively healthy and active. And why did I wake up every morning like I was 65 years old? Like it just didn't make any sense. And I hurt my knee and had to go to PT, and they were like, "You have, like, poor muscle tone all over your body, like, in certain places, especially your core." And so, of course, I started like, "Okay, I'm gonna get the six-pack abs, like, I'm gonna go hard," and
Yeah.
oh god, there's so many programs I've spent, like, thousands and thousands of dollars on programs, and they never worked. And so, eventually and this is one of those, like, universal little, like, given things, I was like, okay, I'm going to go on YouTube and I'm going to do 5 minutes of core work. And I started doing that every day. I started doing 5 minutes, and I made a little playlist, and I could choose, and I started doing it either in the morning or the evening. And after a couple months, I went up to 10 minutes, and I started doing that, and I had my playlist for 10 minutes. And it was something that I could do no matter where I was, because all I needed was Wi-Fi on the floor. And it's been over a year, and I don't have back pain anymore. Like,
Wow.
I wake up and I get out of bed and I'm like, I get to start my day like a not a 65-year-old right now. And it's like, I think that also would freak people out to be like, oh my God, I have to work at this for a year to make this change. But the thing is that it is so ingrained in me now that it's like if I don't do it, it feels as weird as not brushing my teeth.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Oh,
just
wow.
something I do every day, and I'm gonna keep doing it. So, it's created this lifelong trajectory that, like, is part of who I am now.
You know what's so meta about this is that this change is pretty big and it happened recently.
Yes.
And we're just talking about how big changes need to happen incrementally, slowly over time.
Mhm.
So like, I wonder what my question is. It's not like, is it real? Do you trust it? But it's like, what made this stick? Because this was sort of a like snap moment, but it's a
Mhm.
snap moment about how snap moments and like big shifts aren't the core body of change work. So what made this one stick?
Mhm. Um, you know, there's a bigger part to the story, which is this, that I did hit the wall. So, like, with years and years of this style of attempting change and with certain circumstances in my work world and my personal life, like, I had adrenal failure and I couldn't
Oh
work.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
so I had 2 weeks off from work, and I remember during that time, I did nothing. I did so little, and it wasn't like the swing back from extreme to sloth, it was just pause, and it
Mm.
was such a radical experience for me that when I went back to work and I started to like, I just had to think about things in a totally different way if I was gonna move forward with any sanity.
Yeah. Yeah. So you hit I mean, like you hit a bottom. You hit the like, I'm done, which is, we'll talk about like, this is what I wanted to ask you of when is this not true? Like, when is the incremental not true? Because in my experience, it almost always is. Like, the good stuff sticks when you go, what's the Navy SEALs phrase? Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. That, like, that's what happens. And at a certain point, you've made slow changes over time and you sort of run up into like, I have to make the big change. Like, I've walked myself up to the big cliff where I have to make the big change, the like leave the career shift of like,
Mhm.
I've tried, and here I am. Something big is going to change. But what I'm hearing from you is if you just jump to that big change without the small incremental work, you're going to boomerang, you're going to rebound, you're going to have a nervous system reaction. But it sounds like there's a place in our lives, right, for the small increments change and the big changes. You want to get the order of operations right.
Mhm.
Is
Yeah, I
that,
love that you put that.
how's that lining up with what you're bringing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I love how you connected it to my experience of the career change because I'd wa I wanted to make a career change for, like, 5 years, but I
Yeah.
couldn't do it, and it took the bottom and then the steps from there and, joining the coaching program, meeting a new community, so it was all these steps, and truthfully for me, when it came to that big moment, it wasn't all that big. It was like,
Yeah.
this
That's
is
how you
the
know you did it right.
Yeah,
You were
yeah,
over ready.
right, and I guess in that sense, you could look at the incremental changes as like stair steps, and that when you're taking this bigger step or higher step, it doesn't feel that way because you've done the legwork. You've gotten to that place.
The phrase that keeps coming to mind for me is that things happen gradually and then all at once. Now, I don't
Yeah,
know that that's how
totally.
all things happen, but just thinking about it sounds like you were talking about burnout there, like workplace burnout. I think all 3 of us have probably seen that. And it does, it happens gradually and then all at once, like, you get more and more and more burnt out, and you're doing it what you can to use whatever, corporate euphemism you want, build the plane while you fly it, like, drive the wagon while you're trying to keep the wheels on, so
I
you're
know
doing
that.
that. You're doing that as long as you can, and then there comes a point where your body's like, "Okay, we're done."
Mhm.
And so it's this gradual build up, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, we're not moving forward anymore. Our body will not accept another day of this, and it's going to rebel in some way, shape, or form. You're going to get really sick, and your flu will be so bad that you literally can't look at your screen, or you're going to have adrenal fatigue, or, whatever it is. So that was one. Habits. I heard you say I gradually built this habit of doing core work every day until one day, and that's the things happen gradually. One day I looked around and doing core work was a non-negotiable aspect of who I am and
Yes.
Mhm.
what I do in my day. So it's like all of a sudden you look around, you're like, oh, that's there now. Um, and then Kim, we've had a relationship that we haven't published yet. Our relationship, we had a conversation that
You gonna tell people about
we
that?
have a relationship we haven't published.
We have not told your wife that
No.
yet.
No, 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 no. We we had a conversation about decisions that kinda make themselves,
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
and how leaving a job or leaving a relationship is an excellent example of this slow, gradual buildup to a decision, and then you just wake up one day and you're like, "I can't not end this. I can't not walk away. I can't not leave my job." Then and that almost happens, it's like a page turns. You've been turning pages. All of a sudden you turn a page and you're reading a book in a different language.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, this phenomena of doing things slowly and incrementally, and then at some point it's like it's just the new normal.
Yeah. And I think for me, a huge piece of it is it's like thinking about where I was at the beginning before I experienced that,
Yeah.
because I think that now I've experienced such a concrete example of how this does work. I'm like, yeah, this is it for me. Like this is how my life is going to go from this place because it's manageable, it's workable, and it works. And thinking about where I was at the beginning, this idea of small change was defeating. It was like,
Mm.
why can't I do it? Like, why can I just conquer myself? You know? And it was like, what is that phrase? The beatings will continue until morale improves. And
Yeah.
it's like, that was totally my thing. Like, I'm going to whip myself until I get this right. And it took that bottom to be like, no, this is not working. And
Yeah.
I feel like where I am now is this understanding that, like, I'm not, I need to work with my system and with what I have. And that ultimately actually shows me, like, when I focus on what I do have, I realize, oh, there's actually more here than I thought I
Mhm.
had.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, and also speaking of habits, it sounds like you have to allow yourself to become someone who da da da, someone who I'm someone who does core work. I'm somebody who da 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 da. And that identity shift is like the foundation for sustainable change, as opposed to like I'm, I have to make myself do core work. I'm just somebody who does this every day. It sticks, but it takes a while to build up that identity and let go of the old identity that was, I'm somebody with a weak core who's just like has back pain. I have back pain forever, every day. It takes
Yeah.
time. I remember one time I had I like, thank God I haven't had many injuries, but I had this like shoulder thing that was happening from cleans and whatever. So I went to PT and they were like, oh, it's nerve. It's going to take a long time to heal because like there's muscles, tendons, and connectors, and there's nerve pain, and the nerves take a long time to heal. Your nervous, and the PT was like, your nervous system takes the longest time to heal.
Yes.
And I, and And I was like, "Oh, yeah." And in that moment, I was like, "Is that the same nervous system that I talk about in, like, coaching? Is that the, like are we does that one take?" And he was like, "Yeah, no, it's the nervous system." And I was like, "Oh, oh, it all takes a lot. This is why this takes so long. This is why trauma recovery takes so long. This is why new habits take so long. This because it's the same the thing that's in my shoulder is the thing that's in my brain that
Mm.
is making me either believe this thing or react this thing. Like, it's the amygdala, it's the limbic, it's all of it, the prefrontal, all of it is the nervous system. And if you're changing it at a nervous system level, it just takes a fucking long time. It's not a muscle. It's yeah. Anyway, yeah, it takes titration. And if you go too fast, so if you just shove yourself into like cold plunge into change, in my experience, and this is what I've seen both in like clients and literature, people snap back big time, like the opposite. They'll they will regress because they're not ready for it. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's what you saw in your cycles.
Oh, yeah. I love
Familiar?
yeah, I love what you said about identity because, I'm loving internal family systems and parts
Mhm.
work, and and that has actually been huge in like, I feel like learned this, applied it, it's working, and now the next level up is really getting to know the parts of me that are either resisting or that want something different, and understanding how they're all corresponding inside because, man, they're there for a reason,
Yeah.
and they developed for a reason, and if I'm just like, "F you, I'm just gonna go take this other track," they're like, "Hey, we kept you alive. Like, you are alive today because of the way that we made you stay alive." And it's it's so much patience and compassion to get to have a conversation with these parts and be like, "Tell me your story. What do you need? What do you
Totally.
want?"
Oh my god.
Gosh, just really getting into it. And and oh god, I just think the hardest part for me is the impatience. It's like our world is so fast. There's just so much happening all the time that we're aware of now. And it's like our bodies are not meant for that speed. Like they're just not. And I I I'm more aware of that now as I am slowing down, being like, wow, I just got to shut it off sometimes because the work that I'm doing and trying to regulate myself doesn't match with what's being asked of me.
Hmm. So we've talked about parts work on the episode before. I think it's a relatively new thing, and a lot of people listening might not know what it is. Could you share a little bit more about what that work has looked like for you, and then draw a bridge to how it's helped you incrementally build new behaviors, ways of thinking, ways of being?
Totally. So, there's actually another part to it as well. So, do you know the positive intelligence system? Okay, so,
Oh, I
uh,
don't. What's that?
okay, so it's a whole uh, modality, I guess, developed that is related to parts work. So you get to know what are called your saboteurs. And we all have these parts of us that hold us back, that cause us trouble. And this program calls them saboteurs. So with parts work, which helps you get to know the different parts of you that came about when you went through hard things as you grew up and your whole self fragmented. Um, I learned these parts of me that were saboteurs, and these are like archetypal things: perfectionist, hypervigilance, hyperachiever, controller. So they're big umbrella experiences that a lot of us have. And with work of a coach initially, I started a dialogue with them and I created a character for them so that I could very clearly see them and talk to them when they came up. So I could be like, this is when they came up. This is what they say to me. This is what I'm going to say to them. And in the beginning, it was very adversarial. So I would usually swear at them or tell them to go away. And over time, they have totally transformed. So one of my top saboteur is restless, which makes me like want to go to do a million different things at once and not finish things and makes it hard for me to stay in one place or stay focused. And I initially visualized this as a shadow that was always following me and I couldn't get rid of it. And eventually it turned into this character that became the alchemist. And the
Mm,
alchemist, all it wants to do is regulate my nervous system. Like that's its job. And as restless, that's what it was trying to do. It was trying to give me the sugar or the movement or the escape to feel safe. But it wasn't, eventually, it got to a place where that wasn't working with the life that I wanted to lead. And when I was able to interact with it in a way that brought in compassion and attention and care, it like completely became this other character. And now I talk with the alchemist like all day long. And when I feel my energy come up, I'm just like, okay, what do we need? Like, what has to
yeah.
happen right now? And that is so helpful with this whole idea of micro and macro, in that I actually get to interact personally with my system and have a conversation about like, where am I at right now? And what little thing do I need to do to feel grounded and stable? If that makes any sense.
Mhm.
Yeah. With the theory being that over time, you do this enough that you sort of more automatically regulate. Yeah. Yeah. Spend more time in regulation.
Yes.
Kim, you've done similar work.
I was going to ask you a question. You asked me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm just wondering, from what Parody shared, what parallels have you had? How have you done? I mean, I saw you react a couple of times with what looked like recognition
Mm,
as Parody was
mm.
explaining her process. What was coming up for you, or how have you done similar work?
Yeah. Like I think I have become a burnout coach because I live on the edge of burnout often and I just want to live a cool life but don't want to like crash. And so I've really figured out like what is that cocktail of experiences that allows me to be big and do cool things without like losing my mind or my energy. And um it's just constant 1 degree changes. Like you're just taking the temperature all the time of like, where's my energy right now? What have I been doing for the past couple days? What's happening? What's coming up? Like, what do I need to prep for and my body for? And now it's so, sometimes I feel, I mean, it does feel pretty automatic at this point. Sometimes I do feel like NASA though. And I'm like command center and we are like taking the data from all the different places and being like, so what's the workout today with all that? Like, what are we doing? Because there's gonna be a right answer, which is, a false binary. But still, I think about it deeply. But I didn't used to be that way. I used to be absolutely go big or go home, and, like, on workout days or, workouts, um, if I couldn't get 60 to 75 minutes of workout, I wouldn't do anything. I would just be like, "Shot day." Like, why bother starting? And now I'm like 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there, like, I'm in and out of the basement and just walking and doing different things, and it's just, like, it all adds up. And then, I mean, whenever one of the things I wanted to ask you, Parody, is, like, where does that drive for bigness and change come from? For me, it was totally identity-based. I am the hero, I'm the rescuer, I'm the only one who could do these things. I have gotten recognition for being above average, and I will continue to do that. Like, I will continue to, like, take on these big challenges, like, I don't do anything small. Um, and the shadow of this was actually that's all shame. That was all just driven from shame of, like, if I don't do this big, then who am I? Like, if I don't make this, "Oh my god, I need to make a change," I will do it immediately, all the things all at once and all together, and so there I Um, there is such big adrenaline that comes from committing to something like that and setting up the plan and actually, like, getting through, um I got through a lot of that. Like, I actually did a lot of those things and was like, "Rewards, rewards, rewards." Until I, like, really met my match in terms of, like, trying to make the big changes that the world was asking of me, that my jobs were asking of me, that I was like, "I want to do yes, I want to do that." And failing at them because I actually did not want to do them. And so I hit the, like, skids in this big change world and had to learn how to titrate and what titration even was. That was not a word I knew. Um, when I was trying to become, like, I don't know, some, like, strategically minded corporate for-profit healthcare data person that got me fired.
How's
That
try
didn't go
try that
well.
on for identity. Yeah, like,
Yeah. Is that what
how's
your
it feel
5-year-old
when
self wanted to be when they grew
yeah,
up?
when you're like, "That's my
Totally.
identity. That's what's on my tombstone." How's that feel?
Yeah, because I would just constantly run up against at work, I'd run up against these, like, moments where I'd be like, "Wow, there is so much we can do here, and wow, we haven't really gotten a lot of it done, and, like, I wanna be that person," and I get feedback that, like, "We want you to be that person," and then I would try, and it wouldn't go well because I didn't actually wanna do it, and so it wasn't aligning, the things weren't adding up, and it just got harder and harder, worse and worse. I felt more and more frustrated, more and more like the shame created itself, and I had to really be forced to let that go, and then when I did, then, like, lots of other pieces like, aligned in the rest of my life, and I will say the other thing that, like you, Parody, like, energy-wise, um, I never lost my physical energy, like, that kept going survival mechanism, like, I was running on adrenaline, like, through COVID, my workouts were nuts because I was so stressed out working for the freaking governor, setting up these hospitals. It was manic, but I was emotionally dead, numb. No, like, I just, like, "I don't care, but I gotta keep doing this." And so, once I hit that, then I started learning about, um, adrenal fatigue, intensity, and I put all the pieces together like, "Oh, I am case study. I am a case study in adrenal fatigue. High intensity workouts, high achiever, run your whole life on adrenaline, da 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 da." And when I started to realize, like, and I'm at that point 35, like, I'm gonna go into perimenopause soon. My hormones are gonna get really sensitive. As
Uh,
you age, as your hormones get a little out of whack, you get more and more sensitive to stress. And I was like, I gotta get this shit together real soon because this
Mhm.
is not gonna be pretty if I don't
Mhm.
figure it out. And
Yeah.
it really, I was like, I see it. I see the future coming. And now that I'm in perimenopause and I can see my hormones, I am so sensitive to stress now in a way that I definitely wasn't before. And so I'm glad I figured it out. But I also think that the legacy of living the boom bust cycle for so long has made me actually, now that I've healed from it, way more sensitive to like, we are not going back. And if I feel myself going into it, I get the body cues of like, hell no. And so I look like I'm doing worse, but I'm actually like, I'm just more sensitive because I pay attention more to my body. So and IFS has been a big part of my journey too. So those are the looks of recognition.
yeah.
Yeah. It was
Yeah, go ahead.
interesting what you said about you're more sensitive to the stress now, and I'm wondering what you in addition to what you just said, that now you're aware of those signals. Do you feel like your capacity was greater before for stress, or the stress was there and those signals were just not being read?
I can't remember if I said this on the podcast or not, but I think I did. I think it was in the yeah, I did. It was in the change, when decisions get made for you. I I miss the protective veil of denial. Denial did so much for me. I could tolerate and withstand so much that and just absolutely full under the ground repression of signals that things were not going well. Body signals, mental signal, like gone. And I was like, fine. And I truly was. Like I didn't have a lot of um noticeable symptoms other than like a persistent feeling of like this life isn't for me. Anyway, um but what I did notice is Pancha, do you like in your training do you track your heart rate variability, your HRV at all
Yeah, I track my heart rate variability every day.
every day?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's I I do too. Heart rate variability is a measure of how like at ease your nervous system is
Mhm.
and how adaptable it is to just like stress. And so ideally what happens is when you take an inhale, you get electrical signals that go to your heart and it'll say beat faster because adrenaline's going up. You're like your diaphragm's going down, it's like opening up the chest cavity and then when you exhale, especially if you go slowly, it sends a signal to slow the heart rate down. And so the variability between inhale, exhale is a measure of just how adaptable your system is. I had amazing heart rate variability. Amazing. I don't know, for me, it was great. Night times were lovely. We were at triple digits. It was so nice. And I swear to God, there was a moment in therapy where I remember the session when we identified, I remember the day, I remember exactly when it was, when we identified that I have sort of an addiction to the rupture and repair cycle in relationships of like, I I love a good repair. And I almost I don't cause fights, but when they happen, I just like start going right to the repair. And so I don't really even think about so I try to get out of the conflict because the repair is so sweet. As soon as I figured that out and started separating from that cycle and being like, be in the rupture for a little bit longer. Just like see what you need to take from this rupture. Don't get into repair so fast. My heart rate variability has never recovered. It dropped like 40 beats that week and it's never come back. And it's for a while I was bugging out. But what I took from that is I had a denial was a physiological protective mechanism for me. It held everything together to a point where even my nervous system believed it. Like I believed this at a nervous system level. And then I got the information that in fact this life you're living isn't healthy even though it at a nervous system level feels it. There's something else out there for you and maybe eventually it'll come back, but you know? Like it's and I think what I take from all this is that it doesn't all like even your landing place of change doesn't always feel good. And that but like on a nervous system level, but I love my life so much more now. Wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
I miss those good numbers.
I got into heart rate variability tracking specifically for athletics. There's like
Mhm.
during COVID, I realized, well, there's not much to do. I'm going to ride my bike. And I'm in the years of my life where riding my bike in endurance efforts, like my body's never going to be more suited for big, 100-mile bike rides. So I might as well do that now. And I got interested in tracking how well I recovered depending on my
Mm.
sleep, my diet, etc. Um, there was a day, it was last Friday. Um, building a business is hard,
Mhm.
everybody. Like if you haven't done it, it's fucking hard.
FYI.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's awesome and it sucks a lot. And last week on Friday, I'd had like a heavy week, like 4 days in a row of heavy workouts. Woke up on Friday and my heart rate variability was not great compared with what it looks like if I'm well rested, well fed, you know. Um, and there was a point in the day where I had a call with someone for a board of directors that I'm on, and she was like, do you ever get told that you just have this very calming presence on calls? Like it feels, I feel very at ease when I'm having a one-on-one with you. And I was like, that's interesting because right before this call, I was eating lunch, sitting outside in the sunshine. First time I'd gotten outside all day. And I just had this massive, overwhelming wave of despair just like crash down on me. And I had no fucking idea what was happening. I'm just like sitting my lunch, like having a normal Friday. And I'm on the back stoop. And next thing I know, like I am fully submerged in existential despair. And I don't know where it came from. It just happened, and had, like you said, Parody, as coaches, we get to develop skills to notice. We kind of like make ourselves the guinea pig for the things that we want to work on with the people that we're working on. So it's cool to see that I now have the wherewithal to be like, oh, that's despair. What the fuck? What is happening right now?
Yeah.
But my Whoop score, so Whoop will say the percentage that your body is recovered on any given day. If you're at 100%, you could not, according to your heart rate variability, you could not be any better. And if you're, sub 10%, you really just should chill on the couch all day. I think I was at like a 22 on Friday. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's, coming back to what you said, Kim, like the physical nervous system is the same nervous system as the psychological nervous system. It's all the same system. And
It takes time.
yeah,
Yeah, well, and it's really sensitive.
it
Yeah.
takes time, and the things that we sometimes think of, like we would like to believe that we are not one. So here's, I'm gonna I have a hard time with systems like internal family systems or inner child work because, and this was, I pushed back with my coach. I would push back on this a lot. Like, there's no small child in there. Like, it's just this. It's like the meat bag with the bones inside and the blood and the water. And, like, if you open me up, there wouldn't be like a little Russian doll, like Russian nesting doll scenario where you're just like, one smaller thing inside of me than another. So I have a hard time, one, coming from a corporate background where jargon was used to exclude people a lot. Like people would use big words to make themselves sound smart in meetings or to exclude other teams from taking part in what we're doing because you don't understand the words we're using to talk about the work we're doing. So jargon is difficult for me. And relating with the idea that I contain multitudes, though I know I do, is also difficult for me. And I see myself more as like one thing. Which, coming back to like, yes, you might be tracking your heart rate variability for athletic purposes, but it's the same nervous system you use to think and feel. And the body you use to go exercise is the same body you use when, like you both said, you come up against something that you used to be in denial about and you're not in denial about it anymore. And your body's like, no, like full stop. We're not doing this. We've watched this movie before and we're not doing it. So I see the wisdom in everything you're both saying. I think it's more of just like a semantics approach or like a different perspective. I have to come to it from a different way of thinking. And when people say your inner child, since I can't relate with that, my coach had to struggle with me on this a lot. She said, well, okay, what if you thought about it as just the behaviors that you learned as a kid to keep yourself safe when you were in situations where you had no control? And those were the behaviors that in that dynamic helped you feel like you had some degree of safety or control. But as an adult who now is able to make decisions for himself, those behaviors and strategies that you've now got fully ingrained as a habit don't work for you anymore. They're actually counterproductive. And thinking about it that way makes sense. Whereas thinking about like, I've got gremlins and saboteurs and inner shadows and blah, blah, blah. Like, and it's all mashed up inside. It gets difficult for me to think about it that way. I have to more just think about like, okay, well, how has this unit, this person that I am, changed and
Yeah.
developed? And what are the ways that I can understand myself better? Using, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it, layman's language.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that, Poncho, because it's revealing to me how I do really connect with these the way these systems portray that sense of inner world. Like that does work for me. And
Totally.
I truly hadn't really considered that it doesn't work for other people, which is so, so blind. And so I really appreciate that you're sharing this, and I love how you've reconceptualized it to a place where you still get the benefit of the concept, but in a way that works for you. And it makes me think about like developmental freeze and how a way to look at these parts is that those behaviors that came about at that time in our life are like developmentally frozen in
Yeah.
our body. And that until we can unfreeze them by clearly seeing them, understanding them, feeling them, they're going to stay there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because in saying that, it doesn't feel good. I feel like I'm like the odd man out from the cool kids club, like, oh, here's this cool new like, system and it's internal family systems and everyone's talking about it and it's on all the podcasts. And I'm like, that doesn't fucking work for me. So am I behind like what's wrong with me, right? Um but yeah, you're like developmental freeze. I think more in terms of concepts than, so thinking about it that way, it's like, yeah, here's the thing that you learn to do, and it hasn't continued to develop and keep up with the phase of life that you're in. And given who and where you are in your life right now, you got to keep developing it. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. It makes sense to me that this wouldn't make sense to you.
Say more.
Like, knowing you as I do, um, I have seen you really connect with, like, concrete stuff and a sense of, like, not literalness, but, let's not put more words or languages around like, when you said, "I connect with concepts," the concept of, like, developmental freeze, of just, "Okay, this is a pattern that I have done for my life.
Yeah.
Here, it's present, it's a habit." Whereas Paradie and I might say, like, "There's a part of you that wants to da da da," and you're like, "No, it's just when this happens, I do this." And it doesn't need to be, like, a character. It can just be, "This is what I do, and I would like to do something different." And I do it because it's worked for me, and I just haven't changed the habit yet.
Yeah.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are frameworks. We had an episode on yoga, right?
Mhm.
Um, there are frameworks where once you take the fancy titles away and you look at the actual meat of the work, you look at what's actually there. You take all of the Sanskrit names out and you look at like, okay, don't steal. And by don't steal, it's not just like stealing physical possessions. It's not stealing from your future self's potential or not stealing people's time. So those things make sense, but the words that are like the title for it make them difficult to relate with because it literally in this case, it is in a foreign language.
Mm.
And I think that that's probably the case with what you're both talking about. If I were to go and talk to somebody about it and we talked about, okay, well, here's what a saboteur is, I'd be like, oh, yeah, I've got that. But I'm not going to call it a saboteur because it feels weird. Instead, I
Mhm.
would just like to understand that's an aspect of how I am in my day to day. And here's how it plays into the rest of my life and how I behave and think and feel. Yeah.
Yeah. Pancho, does this I feel like you're a natural at this. Do you struggle with the big change versus small change thing?
Yeah. That was going to be a question I wanted to ask Parody. Like when is the case for the big change? When is the small gradual approach not the right fit? And when does it make sense to just do the big drastic action and actually maybe embrace the all or nothing back to the wall kind of a feeling.
Mhm.
Or maybe that dichotomy is a false dichotomy. Maybe that's not even like how things actually work.
Yeah. Um, I'm gonna say that I'm still learning that, and I would love to hear both of your experiences with that. I would say for me, the big the big moments tend to come when, like, I'm thinking about how, last year I was in full-time teaching and this year I'm subbing. And I had to do all the paperwork and all the things to get in new districts and, all the logistics. But then ultimately, like, I needed to get that first day as a sub again in a new district. And I did all the little steps, but ultimately that first step of like going into someone else's classroom with students I didn't know and kind of taking that leap, like that just had to happen. So in that sense,
Yeah.
it was like there were small steps to a point, but then the next step was significantly bigger, but it was the next step that had to happen.
Yeah, you couldn't like go in there and peek into the classroom for a couple of minutes and be like, those are the kids I'm going to be hanging out with for the whole day a month from now. You just showed up. Got it. Yeah, I'm not sure. Because even then, like you said, this framework of gradually and then all at once, right? Like we talked about in a previous episode how visioning the
Mm.
future, like envisioning the outcomes you want, helps your brain start to treat those outcomes less as fiction and more as potentially real. And as your brain becomes like, as coaches, this is actually something that we're recommending, like anybody who's selling something, but as coaches, we have to sell ourselves, right? Our services. Whenever you're telling somebody the price tag for what you're selling, it works at the neurological level to repeat it to yourself over and over and over again, because the more you say it out loud and make it real and have it just be like a thing that is normal in your day to day, the less aversity you have to sharing what your price tag is, because you've exposed your brain enough to it to where your brain's like, oh yeah, that's a normal thing. We can operate under that framework. So even then there's this gradual, exposure, 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 and then a thing happens.
And I would say
Um,
that first conversation is probably still a bigger leap than repeating it to yourself, but then actually having the conversation is that like, okay, this step is a lot bigger than the
yeah.
ones before it.
Yeah. I can actually say I told somebody the price tag for one of my services. I give workshops, and I've done these workshops at like co-working spaces for free. I've done them in a variety of settings, but the really core audience for my workshops that I really want to work with are teams in the outdoor industry. And today was the first time I had an opportunity to pitch individuals from the outdoor industry on these. And it didn't feel like much because I had practiced that conversation and like written it down and read it over and over again and like thought about what it was going to feel like to do it as I was taking the dog for a walk multiple days in a row. So yes, it is a big leap, but it didn't feel that I didn't get like the same. Sometimes when you know you're about to have an important conversation, your nervous system's just like, here we go. And you're like, no, I was fine 5 minutes ago. Why are we freaking out right as we're about to walk in the room or jump on the Zoom call? Like, couldn't we just have stayed fine? I stayed fine this time. So, so I think it does work. Are there any things where you just make the big change all at once? I think so, but I think it's not because you want to, but because you have to. Like the
But
nervous
you're
system doesn't.
ready.
Yeah, yeah. Like the
Yeah.
nervous system doesn't like to make big changes. We like to keep things the same. The way we're wired is to like stay comfortable in whatever the status quo is. So for one to have to make a drastic and sudden change, I think there needs to be uh, a good enough reason to do that. For me, it's been, for example, having kind of out of nowhere clarity on a value or a principle that now that I've seen it, I can't unsee it. And it's not like I've been thinking about it gradually. It's not like it's just like I thought about this thing for the first time today. And after I thought about it, I realized I drastically needed to change the way that I lived my life in some important aspect of how I do my day to day. And I don't get to do this gradually. I'm just like, well, I've realized this thing about the way the world works and how I am in it. And I now need to change my behaviors going from doing it every day to never doing this again.
Mm,
Um,
yeah. I don't know if you've talked about this on the show. It makes me wonder about alignment of physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, like a spiritual aspect to it.
yeah. Yeah. Let's go. You're speaking my language. Kim,
Yeah.
you were about to say something.
No, I was just making the duck face because I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be juicy. Whatever's coming next is gonna be good."
Yeah. So you said you're wondering that, right? Like the alignment of, I actually like use this framework in a lot of the work
Mm,
I do. You have
mhm.
your mind voice, you have your heart voice, emotions, you've got your body's voice. That's like body keeps the score side of things. And then you have the spiritual voice. And I don't know that this is actually how we are wired. I don't know that this is actually how we are, but it is a fairly simple framework to understand oneself. So I'm curious, where were you going with that?
Yeah. Um, I guess it's like I know where I stand with it, and I feel like spirituality, even if you separate it from religion, it's still such a careful topic because because the concept of spirituality is still so broad, and so what it means to one person might mean totally different to someone else. And so when I use the term, I'm thinking like in the simplest sense is something greater, something bigger. For me, it's connecting different parts of the universe. And the Kim, when you ask about, what about those big changes? For me, that is some aspect of spirit coming online because
Yeah,
it,
yeah, yeah.
it is like it's like everything aligning to the point where finally this other energy can come through, and it's like this is it. And I think about when, I separated from my ex-husband, and there was a lot of pain and a lot leading up to that, and when it finally was time, it was like, there's no question. There's no more little decisions to make, like, this is it.
To make sure I understood you and correctly, Parody, it's almost like for you to be able to tap into the spiritual aspect of who you are or how you see yourself, certain things need to be in alignment first.
Mhm.
And what happens when they're not? What happens to your ability to connect with that side of yourself?
Mm. Yeah, I think that is internal conflict, confusion, doubt, uncertainty, going one way, going another way, fighting myself, battling myself. And when I've tried everything else, and usually there's an aspect of surrender, like, okay, I'm just going to do 5 minutes of core work. It becomes so easy. It's like, oh, why didn't I do this before? This is an answer. Yeah, it flows.
Hmm.
And so I remember you using in, like, one of the earliest sessions I ever had with you, the 4
The four
pieces, the
voices.
spiritual, the
Yeah.
heart, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
with me, and it just I forget what I was talking about, but I remember that moment being like, "Oh, I am not lined up. These
Mm,
are all in different directions," and, like,
yeah.
they're and not that they have to all be lining up to the same direction, but, like, I'm only paying attention to one. Like, I'm sort of neglecting what the other are saying, and
Yeah.
so cacophony resulted.
Yeah.
How do you use
Yeah.
this?
Mhm.
Yeah.
The frame
I do think about it differently. Um, and this is actually work that my coach Meadow DeVore put together. The idea is that you have 4 different voices at play, and they are all just bringing information to you. And the idea is that the framework is used specifically to understand how to make decisions or what direction you want to chart in your life's path, like what you want to work towards, what goals you want. Um, so small, what next steps do I need to take, but also big, like what are the things that I should strive for in my life? And so the mind voice is a voice that we're all very familiar with. It's the voice that's always going. It can very often be critical, be negative, can be critical of yourself, critical of other people, carries a lot of shoulds. When we overlay stories or frameworks onto things, that's the mind voice. It can be helpful, but it can also just kind of spin up fictitious
Is it loud?
facts. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
loud. It like assumes assumptions are true when they're not necessarily true. Um, and it's usually very clear in what it wants you to do. The emotional voice, your heart voice, is emotions. And I think in the world of coaching, we all are exposed to this. Some people out in the world might not think of emotions. I think of emotions as signposts or like little flags going up,
Mhm.
right? They're a, hey, look over here, something's happening signal. And you also get to experience them and feel them. You almost have to go notice them to experience them and feel them, but your emotions want you to do something, right? And that's actually from an evolutionary perspective. Fear wants you to take care of the thing that is perceived as a threat. Anger wants you to notice that something that's very important to you is being threatened and might be taken away, or that somebody you really care about might be at risk of harm. Sadness, grief, it needs time and it needs rest and it needs community. And it will wait as long as it needs to for you to give it those things, and it will just stay if you don't. And then there's shame, fear, that family of emotions. And those are all about being ostracized, about, being rejected, not being accepted. So those are emotions. Then you've got your body. Your body will tell you, like my body literally rebels when I am now faced with the potential of working with somebody who is going to ask me to put my nervous system on the chopping block for the sake of getting work done. So I've been burnt out. I know what that feels like. I know the kinds of conversations that lead to, yeah, you're going to be like waking up at 3 a.m. thinking about this because it's a problem that we're not tackling correctly. And my body will just be like, nope, don't want it, don't want it, don't want it. And you can feel it in like heart rate, like a
Mhm.
tightness in your chest. Your body will speak to you in terms of back pains. It'll get sick. If you're, like you could start to get kind of figurative with it. And like, if you lose your voice, like what is the thing you've been saying that you shouldn't, or what is the thing you haven't been saying that you should? And then there's your soul or your spirit, whatever you want to call it. If you ascribe to some religion, it's that. If not, the simplest and best definition that I like for soul, because it applies to everyone, is it is the part of you that wants you to live the best possible story.
Mm. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And it doesn't care if you're happy or if you're comfortable
No.
or if it's easier, if it's hard. Oftentimes, like, it will completely direct you into the absolute shit so that you can move through it and come out the other end. And, so like soul literally just wants you to have the best adventure available to you. And you only get this one shot for sure to have the adventures. It wants it to be the best story possible. And
Soul
so
doesn't
each
give
of
a shit about your heart rate variability, let me tell you.
soul does not give a shit about your heart rate variability. Absolutely. And so, but soul, you asked, is that the job your 5-year-old self wanted you to have? Like soul is probably going to side with your 5-year-old self on this one. So each of these voices talks to you in a way, mind, very loud, very obvious, often yells louder than all of the other voices. And it's hard to put mute it so you could hear the other ones. Emotions, you have to go feel them without overlaying stories on them. Just like, here's the emotion, here's what it is now. It's not good or bad. It just has information. Have a conversation with it. Your body, you have to listen to your body. That one's really subtle. Um, Soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it, communicates by just telling you whether you're getting warmer or not. It knows the direction you need to go in to have the best possible story. And it'll either say, "Yeah, you're getting warmer," or like, "Nope, colder, you're moving away from it." It's not gonna tell you what that outcome looks like. You're either living into it or you're not.
Mhm.
And there's no guarantees about what it's gonna look like
Mhm.
along the way or when you get there, if there's even a getting there to be had. And the voices will disagree with one another. Like your mind voice will be like, I want that six-figure job. Yeah, I want to be like, rolling in dough again. And your body's like, no, we don't want that job. I've done that job before. That job makes you sick and miserable. And so you have to notice what is each voice calling you to do? You take the information and then you get to decide for yourself.
Pancho, I'm hearing parts. I'm hearing all these parts talking inside of you.
I
I was
know,
gonna say it.
which is, which is, which is why I don't treat it as a literal thing. It's like take this or leave it. And really the thing the framework does is it lets you check in with what you are as a whole. Um, but yeah, for some people it might not work and that's fine.
So, Parody, as we look to like sort of wrap this episode in a bow, what
We've been talking
what
for
do
an
you
hour and 10 minutes. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know.
Parody,
Hey.
you're a good guest.
Right.
See, I made a duck face for a reason. I knew what you see. But as we look to like wrap it up in a bow, what do we want people to take away from this in terms of like, okay, if you struggle with big changes and the rebound and like you've busted through every New Year's resolution since 1985, what should you do to start slowly on starting slowly?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest pieces that we haven't really talked about is support. And that even with small changes, there still needs to be some system or structure of support because we can't do this alone. And whether that is someone in your household or a coach or a therapist or a friend, what conversations with your dog, there has to be some sort of connection with something outside of you and some sort of accountability that helps this move forward. I truly believe that I feel like one of my guiding principles has come to we're not we're in this together. We're like humanity, creatures, life. We're not meant to do anything alone. We're all in this together. And that you're not alone. You're never alone. And there's support out there for you just waiting just waiting for you.
Amen.
My mind is so just thinking about the word support, right? It sounds like it could sound like a heavy thing.
Mm,
Um, but it could also be quite practical. Like
yes. I guess I
go
could
make oh yeah, go ahead.
or sorry, I could say connection. Like that it doesn't have to happen in a vacuum and that it really can't. There has to be some connection to something outside of you to remind you that it's either for a bigger purpose or I don't know. I guess I'm getting to the idea that like there you have to understand the deep meaning and purpose of why you're doing what you're doing, or else it's it's not going to move forward. So that's kind of another key part of it is like what is the core value or meaning or purpose that this change is providing you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really important, the why. We always talk about the why, but, like, when your behavior changing, it's so uncomfortable, and, like, you really gotta remember, like, "Why the fuck am I doing this?"
Yeah.
Oh, and what I like to tell myself is okay, this might be new misery, this new behavior change. I might be putting myself into like a brand new flavor of uncomfortable. I can always go back to known misery if I want of the boom bust cycle of change. Like I can
Sure.
always go back to like if I hate this slow thing, I can go back to that thing that I know doesn't end well, but I'm not like barred from trying it again. And in fact, honestly, we change isn't linear and you are going to go back. Like this
Mhm,
isn't going to happen
mhm.
for most people. And so like if people are like, how do I even contemplate starting this? Just run an experiment. Like what's
Mm,
like the next thing you want to change and try changing it by an order of magnitude. Like what is 1/10? And that's this week. And if you hate it, go back to your 10x. See how that
yeah,
goes.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Someone told me everything's a beta.
Yeah,
Everything's a trial because
exactly.
it's just one trial and then the next and then the next and then the next and then at the end you have a story to tell, but you're still just everything's an experiment.
yeah.
Mhm.
As you were talking, parodying, talking about support and connection, and I think this goes really well with what you've both already shared. You might need to find new people to do this thing with. Like it's
Mhm.
much easier to be like, I'm going to run this experiment and see what happens if you are in community with people who also like to run experiments and see what happens. Or find the people who are like, oh yeah, me too. That's normal. You are normal for doing this. And if the people that are in your life look at you doing it and they're like, why would you do that? That's weird. As a human being, you want to belong and you want to fit in. So go find the people who are like, oh yeah, like they'll validate your experience. They'll say, yeah, that's normal. Me too. I'm also doing that. It goes such a long way.
Mhm. I love that.
Totally. So much. Yes. All the yeses.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about that was partially one reason I left the career I was in is that there was just a lot of misalignment in not necessarily the people, but some of the people and just the whole structure. And I think about when I go to like a music festival, it's like the most immersive yes experience of being with people who are all on the same page and all for the same thing. And it is like the best feeling in the world.
Totally.
I
Yeah.
want more of that for you. All of it. Go big. Go big into that. Don't go
Take it.
slowly. Yeah.
Oh,
All right. Is there anything we haven't said or asked you, Parody, that we should?
I think of right now.
This is
Where can
awesome.
people where can people find you if they want to learn more about you? Check out your coaching.
Yes. I am on Instagram and my handle is Paradie Stewart Coaching and my website is paradiestewardcoaching.com.
Easy. Awesome.
Nice job. Thank you for the conversation, both of you. It was lovely.
This was wonderful.
Small changes is the way.
Mhm.
Bye.
All
Bye,
right.
guys.